Hey everybody, this is Rod. It's Saturday night. It's September the 24th and we're right here in the middle of the Cosmic Convergence. And as many of you know, I have been putting up all my natural philosopher, preparing to put all my natural philosopher stuff up online, as well as a number of music projects. And sort of the foremost of those projects is a concert movie that we made last year that we call Riding the Edge of Feeling. And this film was made for us by a very good friend of mine named Geordan Mitchell, who lives here on Vashon. And what I want to do is discuss for a minute sort of the background, Jordan's background, and how we came about making the movie, because I think that it will give you some insight into what's happening once you have a look. Jordan did some very I think deeply creative and aesthetically rich things that make this film worth having a look at. I mean, you know, if you don't dig my guitar playing, you can turn the sound down and it's still a really wonderful experience. So I think it was either 2005 or 2006, and my good friend here on Vashon, Tom Cush, put this book in my hand for my birthday, Harry Partch's Genesis of Music. And Tom told me that he had recently started working with a guy named Geordan Mitchell that I absolutely had to meet. Tom's an old friend of mine and knows about my deep interest in music theory and the relationships between mathematics and music theory and that sort of thing, and of course playing music. So I immediately dug into this thing, and what you'll see on the cover are a number of absolutely extraordinary musical instruments. Okay, so this instrument that Partch designed and built, this one, for instance, I think it's Kithara 1 is what he calls this one, and this is 6 feet tall. Okay, and this other huge, beautiful thing, the name of it's inside the book. We'll have a look in a minute, but this elegant thing is a huge bank of strings that goes across there. Harry Partch was born in the early part of the 20th century, and he grew up in Arizona, I want to say, and had no exposure to formal music training, but at some point in his life got really interested in it, particularly in the ancient Greek tuning systems. And he went on to educate himself to be, as far as I've been able to tell, the world's authority on the history of the Greek tuning systems, which is a very deep and wide subject. And then he went on to compose. Well, let me take a step back. As a result of his study of the Greek tuning systems, he ended up evolving his own system of tonality, and it was a 43-tone octave system. Okay, so from C to C on the piano, which in our Western 12-tone system, there's 12 keys in there. In Partch's system, there would have been 43 tones in that octave. Extraordinarily complex theoretic construction, number one, and then to go about building all these instruments to play this stuff on is equally as amazing. And his pieces were these magnificent operatic choreographed things, very Greek tragedy-like in their character. And I just posted a documentary on Facebook that was made by a news station in California years ago about Partch, and there are a lot of clips of his pieces in there. Daphne of the Dunes was one of his most well-known ones. So Partch's primary collaborator was a guy named Dan Lee Mitchell, and you can see on the back here that Dan Lee gets credit for taking this photograph on the front. And Dan Lee is Jordan's dad. So Jordan grew up in this extraordinarily rich aesthetic and intellectual environment that was the Partch scene. So let's see, I'm flipping through the book here. Let's see, let's get to some of the instruments. You see all these diagrams. So Partch, for the most part, for big chunks of his life, lived as a hobo. He grew up in what we call the Great Depression, which we know, was the Fed taking money out of circulation to crash the economy just like they're doing now. And so what Partch would do would be to jump off the train and go into the local libraries and research his interests. And then whenever he got a chance over the years, he might be living in somebody's basement, say, and go into high school wood shops at night to build these magnificent instruments that he built. Let's see. Let's get on. Oh, okay. Here we go. Spoils of War is what this one's called. It's a percussion instrument. Okay. The Cloud Chamber Bowls, really trippy. Okay, let's get on into some of the more tonal based stuff. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here's that big elegant one from the front cover of the book, and this one is called the Quadrangularis Reversum. And you can see there's a big marimba in the middle here. You know, actually, I don't know if there are strings on this thing after all. It may be entirely a percussion marimba type instrument. Okay, and here is Partch's diagram of his tonality system, how the things were tuned, and he carved these blocks, you know, and tuned these blocks to these extraordinary scale tones. And let's keep going here. Okay, here's one of his sort of archetypal instruments. This is the diamond marimba, and this is a good instrument to study if you're interested in getting your head around how Partch developed his microtonal music system. Yeah, here's the tunings for that instrument. Oh, I love this thing. This thing's called the crichord. Look at that. It's sort of like a harp. Yes, sort of like a harp and a monochord thing with a really beautiful frame there. This one's called the koto. Look at that curved surface with all of those bridges on there. That's so beautiful. Oh, and then, oh yeah, this is the harmonic canon, one of his monochords on overdrive. Look at all those strings. And just, you know, building something that could withstand that kind of tension and would stay in tune is an absolutely extraordinary woodworking accomplishment. This one's called the Harmonic Canon 2, Castor and Pollux. Okay, yeah, here's Harmonic Canon 1. Look at all those tuning pegs over there. Amazing. And these things are gorgeous, gorgeous to look at. Surrogate Kithara is what that's called. Oh yeah, here's Kithara 2. Yeah, about 6 feet tall. It's my understanding that these things are on campus at a university back east, I think in Delaware, Jordan told me. New Kithara 1 is what this one's called. And we're looking at the side that you play it from. And so, yeah, definitely have a look. Oh, here's the Chromelodian 1. Now, this is an extraordinary. This thing was a reed organ that he modified. Let's see if I can find. Okay, yeah. Let's look at some of the stringed instruments. Okay, here's a viola. They call the adapted viola. So, and he did guitars the same way. This is actually the viola neck, but he would do guitar necks the same way. Now, if you're used to looking at a guitar neck, you know that the frets go all the way across the neck at the same place, but you see these are offset. So it's like each string has its own set of frets, and that's because the tonal system he was using is not what we call equally tempered. Okay, yeah, here's a scene from, what is this? From Delusions of the Fury. So, yeah, you can see quite an operatic sort of context he created. Amazing, amazing. So, this is Jordan's aesthetic background as a youngster. So what he brought to this movie for us, first of all, he'd been watching some footage of a Blind Faith gig in Hyde Park in London, and I guess it was the only time they were ever filmed. It was their first public gig. and he noticed, and it was really into the psychedelic effects they were using in that movie. And then at some point he noticed that the tree line in Hyde Park, when looked at from the stage where the guys were, and it does look exactly like the tree line at the Liza Beulah Park where we filmed the gig. And that was sort of where things began. And there are two primary effects that Geordan used visually, and the first one, and maybe my favorite one, he does a lot of color reversals, 180-degree color reversals. Now let me look around here and see if I can put my hands on a color wheel. Oh, there's one there, I do believe. Yeah, here we go. This is one of the products from my Natural Philosopher project. Okay, so what I have here is the notes of the 12-tone scale overlaid with a color pattern, C starting at red. Okay, and this is another story. I've got I think 3 tutorial videos about this particular piece at Natural Philosopher TV. But the point is that I'm making here is that when Geordan is doing a color reversal, for instance, things that appear violet, when he does the reversal, they end up being yellow. So the body of my guitar is a violet color, and when he does a color reversal on it, the body of the guitar becomes yellow. So we say that guitar is violet because it's reflecting violet colored light. That's what hits our retina, the light, according to our way of describing things in Western scientific culture. Light hits that guitar body, reflects off, and goes into my eye, and that's the wavelength of violet light. Okay, well, that guitar body is absorbing all the other colors in the spectrum, and exactly in the middle of that absorbed spectrum of light is going to be the color yellow, and that's what the guitar body looks like. So what's happening conceptually is that you're getting to see the light that's on the inside of that form. This is one of the 2 techniques that Geordan used that really struck me as being really effective at conveying our sense of feeling, and thus the name that we ended up with for the film, Riding the Edge of Feeling, which is very descriptive of how we go about making our music as well. So the other technique that Geordan used was to take various camera shots and overlay them, so at any given time on the screen you might be looking at the output of 3 different cameras, and they're layered. And what he does is really artfully use the negative spaces in those different camera shots to let you look down into the depths of these other aspects of the visual scene. It's like a film version of cubism in a way, but again it creates the spatialness, the proprioception that is such a part of our sense of feeling. So let me think, is there anything else I wanted to mention about that? Yeah, again, I posted that link about Partch on Facebook. Oh yeah, there is something else. Here's a study for my Natural Philosopher system that I actually may do a video on someday, that is about Partch's toning system, the tonality diamond as it's called. Let's see. Yeah, I think that should do it. So, you know what? I'm going to get it together and post the link to the movie itself here in just a few minutes, and hey, we'll be on our way.